pamozi timaumo tiende pamozi timaumo. As young freedom fighters, our vision was building a nation of prosperity from hard work, perseverance, and God's grace. We use this passion and our hands to build what we now all know as Mother Zambia. That was a generation ago. Now it is time for youth to take up the mantle of building the nation. As much as we need accountants, lawyers, and other white-collar workers, we also need quality craftsmen and women. If we want to build our nation, we need to know how to build properly, trained in the best standards, so we need to do it ourselves. My dear youth and fellow Zambians, I say, let us take up this challenge to build the nation. Become a craftsperson to provide for you and your family. I encourage you to take up this challenge, to become a hero in an overall. Be an overall hero today.
You could clearly see how passionate he was for the youths still, and dating it back to when he was a youth himself. So behind that project, you just from seeing was filmmaker Onechi Lonje. He wrote, directed, as well as produced this, and we just want to talk to him how it was working with the first Republican president on that. Welcome to the show, Onechi.
Hello, Onechi, are you there? Can you get us clearly?
Hi, Onechi. Are you there?
Onechi, can you get us? Great.
Oh, great. We finally have you, Onechi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. And of course, it's wonderful to be on Diamond with you all, even as our country is going through such a trying time. I'm very grateful to be here. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us, Onechi. Let's talk about this project and you having worked with KK not long before he passed away. This project, you wrote, produced, and directed it. Why was he the perfect fit for this, and how was it working with him?
Well, the objective of the piece was to encourage youth in Zambia to take up vocational skills training. Mm-hmm. And we thought, what better way to connect the concept of building a nation with the person who birthed our nation? Yeah. And so began the journey of reaching out to, the late KK's team. And for me also artistically, I noticed that there was nothing that had ever been produced about KK that portrayed him in a kind of a sympathetic or emotional light. And as a director, the only thing that you have is your point of view. So I really wanted to showcase my point of view on this on the man, the myth, and the legend. And I can say for a fact, this was the first time in my career that I was ever starstruck by a person. Yeah. So we got to the house. And we're setting up, we're given a portion of the house where you can film. And a lot of people have filmed from KK's house, and we might have recognized part of that space. So we got in, and then I was moving around furniture, trying to create the set. And Tika, our makeup artist, was back there, putting on his makeup. And he even fell asleep whilst getting his makeup done. And then the big moment happens, and then he walks in. Mm-hmm. And for the first time, I was like, starstruck. It took me a moment to kind of gather myself and to get into it. And one thing that kind of amazed me about him was everybody kind of treated him with kid gloves, like oh, washkulu, you know, they were very careful around him. But then something incredible happened when when I yelled action, and he got right into it, and he delivered his lines. And then at the end of the take, I called cut, he looked me dead in the eyes, and he said, "Did you like that? Was that good enough for you? I can do another one." I'm like, you inhaling oxygen in my lens is good enough for me.
Yeah.
Now, Onechi, you speak about KK's aura. Do you think that really emulated, or could you feel just how powerful or why he was able to be the first president of this great nation?
Malama, I love that question because I feel like for young people today, there aren't as many examples of that kind of energy. Because just think about it administratively, to create a country. And also one thing that was very prominent in KK's leadership was him trying to create a brand and an identity of what it meant to be Zambian, one Zambia, one nation, and bringing tribes that were so diverse together. And yes, so when you do come around this person, you do feel some energy because it's like the history. There's just so much history there. This is a guy, I'm sorry, I beg your pardon. This is a man who could stand toe to toe with the leaders of the world, who could go down and negotiate for Nelson Mandela's release from FW de Klerk. Okay, he's a pretty awesome person. And so it was, it was, a highlight of my career and my life. And it wasn't even the first time I've interacted with him, but it was totally different.
I mean, you've had obviously previous works with him, but for this particular one, what was your impression of it before getting into the actual work? How did you feel it would have panned out, in a sense?
Great. So we knew off the bat that this was something historic. And we tried our level best to try to treat it that way. Even in the beginning, how we slowly introduce him. We see the memorabilia, the awards in the house. That was one incredible thing when we got to the house. There are so many awards, so many trophies, in the living room, in the study, everywhere. The entire property, it just has tons and tons of awards. So you already knew going in that this was monumental. And I think now with his passing, looking back at the piece, it kind of takes on a whole other different perspective, really, of just seeing him.
Yeah. Onechi, you just were mentioning that it wasn't the first time really interacting with him. What was the other times like?
Well, like all normal people, you're in a line and you shake his hand or he puts the cloth on your head. I first got to meet with him when my family was posted to Asia on a diplomatic mission. So I was a little boy. I think I was 4 or 5 years old, and he came out to Beijing, and we met. You stand in the line and you say hello. I think I saw him again. I think it was Africa Freedom Day a few years ago at State House. I so happened to be there, and again, you go in the line, you say hello. So this was kind of like the first time where we got to work with him, and how professional he was. And then you forget that this is actually a statesman, and a brilliant one at that. And the magic was still there. And I was so glad that we got to capture some of it,
Yeah.
I would like to know also from you now, Nechi, as a director, and everyone always talks about how KK had such an amazing memory. He could tell you details of different times in his life. As a director, and to have so much data and come from the source itself, what was that like for you?
Well, I mean, again, it's like it doesn't get lost on you when you're in his presence of how profound it actually is. If anything, I kind of had these little ambitions to say, wouldn't it be great if we kind of came back again and just kind of had a whole conversation for an hour and just chat with him about all these monumental moments in Zambia's history. unfortunately, that never came to be. But I mean, man, what an experience and what an honor and a privilege it was. And I have to also say thank you to his team who made it happen, and the people, the crew and the team that we worked with to do it. Brilliant people, Jeff, Linda from his office, all these people.
Onechi, do you think we've got enough data out of KK in terms of cinematology, in terms of just documenting all these documentaries and all that stuff that, especially the young people, the youth. I mean, he's done this piece for the youth. Do you think we've managed to get out of KK as much as we could before his passing?
Well, I mean, he's gone now, so we can't do much more.
Go back.
That is the test of legacy, really. How we now going forward will interpret that legacy artistically, creatively, and otherwise. How many of the next generation of young leaders are going to be inspired by his example? How many artists will create art around his, what he did for this country? So I guess that's the test of legacy. And looking at how a lot of our neighboring countries and leaders around the world instantly reacted to his passing, that tells you something already.
Yeah.
That, it's a great legacy and it's secured.
And speaking of his legacy and really everything that was to be spoken of about KK, what is it about him that you will never be able to forget, especially looking at the moments that you shared together?
Well, obviously, for me, I won't forget seeing that glint of magic in his eye, knowing that the moment the camera turned on, he knew to become that person. So he was no longer just in his house and there were visitors over. He was now KK. And just seeing that,
president.
Yeah, and I think as a, because I started out as an actor, just seeing that him getting into character like that, I would never. That had the biggest impression on me, and it made me understand that even as youth, if you want to be great, like you need to come to the table, come correct, and turn it on.
Yeah. That's great.
Now, Onechi, finally, with you having done that work, and you were just saying that you had hopes of maybe having done something else while he was still around, but unfortunately it can't happen with him being around. Do you have any plans as a filmmaker to just do something even after his passing?
Well, absolutely. The answer is yes. In my personal capacity, I feel like his story really hasn't been told in the way that we could, cinematically and otherwise. A few years ago, I was a contributing writer and deputy editor of Nkwazi In-Flight magazine for ProFlight Airline. And I did this whole, it was an independence issue, and I did a whole article about Simon Wasakapwepwe, Kenneth Kawunda, and Harry. I called them Simon, Kenneth, and Harry, and it was told in chapters where my angle was I was trying to humanize them as young guys trying to achieve this insane task that they were trying to do. And I feel like a deconstructionist approach to their story would be so helpful to so many young people out there. Like, let's set the tone, think of the task that they had to do, and how they actually went about, like the courage, the conviction that you had to be that person. And I really would like to, it could be a film, could be a documentary. I don't know what shape it would take, but I would love for that story to be pristinely told and kept for future generations, because
I would like to be part of it. I would like to
and play my
audition.
Yes, I'm ready. I'm all for it.
Okay.
I'm ready to see it. I'm ready to see it. I'm so ready to see it. With how you're describing that, I'm sure the final product would be great. And Onechi, thank you so much for talking to us this afternoon.
Thank you for the time. And again, it's an honor and a privilege. Thank you very much. And rest in peace, KK.
Rest in peace, KK, indeed. We continue to celebrate his life. We do have the 21 days mourning period and still going on. So expect a lot of tributes for KK. He was such a great man. You see, when you go through YouTube, the videos that you see, and also just recently, the people had chance to talk to him, other freedom fighters, other leaders from different countries talk about him, the interactions that they've had with him. It just shows you